this is Boomy.
And this is Segan, and today's Hero Spotlight is an intrepid explorer who was first brought to life in 1001 Nights and scoured the bays of television, the caverns of films, the oceans of comics, where he met the Fantastic Four and dove into the unseen wastes of straight-to-DVD films, kind of like that one with the guy from Starship Troopers.
That's right. We're talking about the adventurous, the cunning, the charismatic, the legendary sailor of the 7 voyages, Sinbad!
The comedian?
Sinbad is a melee hero with 15 health. Come on, let's be honest. A sailor has no need for armor, and considering that Sinbad will have his ship to maneuver the map, he won't need much. Getting that nice tan out there in the high seas. Well, what's his special ability, Segan?
Yeah, Sinbad gets a pretty cool ability, Boomy, in that he gets to add +1 movement for each voyage card in the discard pile. Now, he's got 7 voyages in total, including the Voyage Home card. And after using the Voyage Home, all the voyages in the discard pile then go back into Sinbad's hand. He's going to gain a lot of speed as the winds gust more and more in his favor.
And Sinbad the Sailor would be nothing without Sinbad the Porter, a melee sidekick with a low 6 health, but an aide with the strongest back in existence. Okay, the Porter's carrying a lot for Sinbad, especially a lot of card draw cards and everything like that. But going into this though, you're talking about speed there, Segan. How's his movement?
Well, starting off, Sinbad, the Porter, he's in a ship. Porter's carrying a lot of stuff. They only have a movement speed of 2. But just like we mentioned with the voyages, that's going to increase rapidly. And eventually, you could get Sinbad up to a total movement speed of 9 if you wanted. Unlikely, but possible. So Sinbad's going to have 30 total cards in his deck. Now that's going to break down to 17 versatile cards, 11 attack cards, 0 defense cards, and 2 schemes.
Yeah, and the Porter has access to 17 cards in the deck, with only 3 Porter-specific attacks, but all giving card draw. The many things in the Porter's back will help you refill your hand.
Yeah, so that's what this guy does. I mean, that's his whole lot in life, right? He's just going to carry all of Sinbad's stuff around all the time. I mean, is that it? I mean, that's what he does, right?
Yeah, hell, just imagine Sinbad going on a nice mall trip. So stupid.
So the dude's going to just be walking around behind him like this Porter dude. Sinbad the Porter.
Welcome to Unmatched University. This is your professor, Boomy. And I have your lesson today on the legendary sailor of Sinbad. The one thing you need to know for the first lesson is voyage management. Sinbad has 8 voyages in his deck, and make sure to time up your voyages quite well. The most impactful ones will be the whale, eyes, and apes for that healing, card discard, and direct damage. Be mindful of cancel cards from your opponent and try to bait them out early in the game, leaving some big attacks for later. If you go over your 7-card hand limit, you can discard voyages to boost up the power of your next attacks, or as well as increase your speed to get around the board much more easier. Also, use Voyage Home to put some attack cards in your hand if you find yourself low. So if you got 1 or 2 cards, Voyage Home, refill up. Second lesson, increase movement. Sinbad the Porter's movement will be increased with the use of voyages, so keep an eye out on your opponent's location. This may be helpful to avoid a pin, or even to kite around the board to force your opponent to boost maneuvers to get to you. Your max movement can potentially be a 9. This means you can reach most areas of the board with a single maneuver. Also, it can be helpful to close the gap between ranged enemies. So no need to boost those maneuvers, you can just do it naturally on your own. Boom! Third lesson. Deck management. Sinbad has 12 cards in his deck that can force you to draw cards. This will keep your hand full, but be wary of drawing too many cards from your deck. It may seem like a strong strategy in the early game, but make sure to use Voyage Home at an opportune time to place cards back into your hand to avoid the need to draw that one last attack. Fatigue is a viable winning strategy in Unmatched, and this can be one way that the opponent will try to win against you. Try to avoid drawing more than 1 to 2 cards per turn in the later stages of the game, and utilize Leap Away and Toil in Danger to position yourself next to your opponent at the end of their turn. Go home, do very well, go really speedily, get on that ship, go on your own voyages, get the hell out, goodbye. Welcome to the BS Awards, where every award matters.
They do not.
So let's not waste any more time, and welcome to the stage, Segan!
All right, thank you, Boomy. And I am here to present the award for Best Attack, and the winner is Voyage to the City of Man-Eating Apes. Not only is this just a really cool name for a card, it's a 2-value attack that could potentially be a 9-value attack that deals an additional 2 damage after combat. Pretty good attack. Boomy, best defense?
The best defense card is nothing. Sinbad has no need to defend himself. Come on. He's on a ship. He's getting that nice tan out in the sun on the way to his next voyage. Come on, he doesn't need any defense. How about his versatiles, though, Segan?
Well, when he doesn't have a defense, he makes up for in versatiles. And the best one in the deck, Leap Away, a 4-value versatile card that can separate yourself away from your opponent. Boomy, what do you have for best scheme?
And the best scheme is Riches Beyond Compare. This scheme provides you with more cards to overflow your hand to discard those additional voyages to gain that extra speed, as well as boost up those other voyage attacks. Thank you, folks, for joining us in the BS Awards. Go home, be safe, go on your own voyage, get the heck out of here. Bye.
Okay, Boomy. So we've gone to university. We've talked about his abilities. We've analyzed the deck. We've handed out some amazing, well-deserved awards. So now we get to the million-dollar question, as always. Do you think that Sinbad is competitive?
Yeah, Sinbad is actually a pretty competitive hero. He's actually really good, even on his own, without the porter, all that sort of stuff. He actually can sustain against a good number of matchups. And, I normally see him in the tournaments, as we go through things, especially the more recent ones. But how about you, Segan? What do you think?
Yeah, I've got to completely agree with you. And speaking of, seeing him in some tournaments, I've used him, several times in the Winter of Champions, Summer of Champions, some of the league matches and stuff like that. And had pretty good success with him. And, he actually really enjoyed playing him. And part of the reason why, are the strengths that we've talked about, such as his movement. He's got a possible 9 movement speed. Like I said, there's nowhere on that board you're going to hide. If Sinbad wants to get to you, he's going to get to you. You really have to consider your placement of sidekicks to try to, strategically position them around the board when going against Sinbad. That's really some of the only defense you're going to have against him, just being able to move across the board and get right up in your face, right? So use your sidekick to try to, shield you from his movement, honestly. He's got 8 cards that give an additional movement, and those 8 cards can actually give a total of 14 additional movement. So the guy can get around. His other big strength, card draw. There are actually 12 cards in Sinbad's deck that provide him with a total of 19 additional cards. So you don't have to worry about having an empty hand with this guy. Overdrawing can actually be a pretty good thing with him because that kind of sets you up to start discarding voyages. And that's going to increase, both your movement and your attack with those future voyages. So, the guy's got some good strengths. But weaknesses, Boomy. What do you think this guy's weaknesses are?
Yeah, he definitely has a few weaknesses, and one of them being the reliance on card effects. Sinbad relies heavily on his card effects to trigger, especially his voyages. The fact that he has those 8 voyage cards in his deck, but heavily rely on the effect on the card in order to boost its attack and also to use the additional after combat effect. But he has one commanding impact, though, a 5-value attack, and potentially 3 5-value momentous shifts, but still, if those get canceled, it goes down to 3 value, and it's not really doing that much for him. So really, a lot of his biggest attacks are going to be voyages, which are 2, and can be canceled by feints easily to deal 0 damage. So you have to be mindful of those cancel effects. He also has a lack of strong defenses. Sinbad's lack of strong defenses makes it hard for him to maintain against heavy attacks, like that big beast form from Dracula, or that forever hide from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. His healing from the whale voyage may not be enough to stave off some of that damage, and if you can't get it twice, it's going to be even more difficult for you in the long run. In conclusion, Sinbad is the legendary hero of the 7 voyages, a sailor that blinded man-eating giants, survived attacks from cannibals, and discovered the marvels of the city of Serendib. In Unmatched, he's a swift melee combatant with a resourceful sidekick that will use the lessons learned from his travels to finally make it back home.